If you have ever been told that setting boundaries with a man makes you empowered and attractive and turns on a man in any kind of way, and that is, in general, what you should be doing with a man, then you've been misinformed. And what you're doing is you're actually pushing away masculine men. You're actually demotivating masculine men from wanting to protect you and take care of you. This may sound completely contrary to everything that you have ever learned, and it might even seem contrary to basic common sense. But in this video, I'm going to be explaining why setting boundaries is actually something that will sabotage your love life. Hello, I am Zach Rohde, and I am here to lead you into creating the relationship of your dreams by inspiring a man into cherishing you, with you using your feminine energy and what I call feminine communication. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, make sure you do that below. Hit that notification bell and be sure to like this video because I'm going to make sure it's a good one for you today. All right, so setting boundaries seems really common sense. Every man or woman should be setting boundaries, making it very clear where their boundaries are with somebody else, because otherwise you're going to turn into a doormat. You're going to be taken advantage of. You're going to be used. No man is ever going to respect you. So it is absolutely true that if you do not speak up, if you do not communicate when a man is doing something to cross a boundary or potentially cross a boundary, that is being a doormat. And yes, you will attract the wrong kind of men, and you will probably be taken advantage of by the man that you do attract if you do not speak up. However, there's a big however, there's a very big difference between setting a boundary and using feminine communication to communicate what you are experiencing so that a man is inspired to set his own boundary for himself to protect you and protect your heart. So setting a boundary, just let's really lay it out. What does this mean? It's when you are energetically creating some kind of wall. Energetically, it's an energetic wall where it's like, don't go past this wall. Any behavior past this wall is not okay. So using an example, let's say that a man is communicating kind of sexually with you and you've just started getting to know him. You're not fully comfortable talking in that kind of way with him yet. Right? So he's violating a boundary that you have because of that discomfort that you're experiencing. Now, if you don't share anything and you just feel all awkward and you just kind of go along with it because you don't want to hurt his feelings or you don't want him to lose interest in any way, you don't want him to abandon you, you don't want to make a scene, you don't want him to be reactive with you. If you don't say anything, then you're communicating that you lack self-worth. You lack self-worth completely, whether it's masculine self-worth or feminine self-worth. And that will cause a man to lose attraction for you over time. If not right away, then over time. Because he's going to feel that lack of self-worth in you, that you have so little worth. You believe so little about yourself and about your needs and your feelings that you're not even willing to speak up when he's doing something that's essentially hurting you, right? Like that discomfort, it's like he's hurting you. He's making your experience worse. So setting a boundary could be something like, hey, don't speak to me that way. It's way too early to be sexual, right? That would be a relatively firm boundary, like a relatively masculine way of communicating that. It's like, don't do this. Any kind of don't do this or no, this is not okay. Say no in general or stop doing this. It's a very masculine, energetically penetrative way of communicating a boundary. And really emasculated men, weak men, more feminine men, they might like that because they're attracted to that strength, they're attracted to that power, reminds them of their mother, essentially. But do you want to be like your mother with a man? No, of course not. And you're not going to be able to attract the right kind of men and inspire the right kind of men to take care of you if you're communicating that way. Because masculine men get really turned off by that kind of language. They get turned off by any kind of energetic wall that you're creating whatsoever. Because what a masculine man needs, his greatest need, really his only need, is respect. It's to be seen as the leader, respected as the leader, trusted as the leader. And if you're setting a boundary, you're setting a wall, then guess what? You're communicating you don't trust him to lead. You don't trust him to set his own boundary. You don't respect him enough to just communicate what you are experiencing so that he does set a boundary. And so he's going to receive that, the boundary that you're setting, as a loss of attraction and a loss of connection with you. It's going to turn him off. Now, if you go and ask men, here's the problem. If you go and ask men this, you're going to get a wide range of responses, because there's some men who are extremely masculine and they'll be very in touch with their masculine instinct and they'll get what I'm saying. But then there's other men on the other side of the spectrum who are like, oh, no, of course you should set boundaries. That's a turn on to a man. But this is the danger of trying to get advice from just men in general, because a lot of the men that you're going to get responses from, they're not masculine enough to even know what they're talking about, right? Yes, that probably will attract them, but those aren't the kind of men that are going to work out in a really long-term, healthy, polarized relationship, right? This is assuming, of course, that you want a man who is fully leading, who's taking care of you, who's cherishing you, who's adoring you, who's protecting you, who's providing for you, right? A masculine man. If that's the kind of man that you want, either because you're single right now and you want to attract him, or you want to inspire your man to become that masculine, then you need to learn how to treat him with the level of respect and the level of trust that I'm talking about. So setting boundaries in that way, that's going to turn them off. But even softening that somewhat, like, I really don't like it when you do that. There's still that energetic wall. It's like you're sharing what you like, you're sharing what you don't like. And you're basically telling him, the sub-communication is, stop doing this. This isn't okay with me. Okay? It's the stop energy. And now you're putting him in a position where he basically has to submit to your boundary. He has to follow your boundary. So now he's in the follower role, and you, at least temporarily, you're in the leader role. And that depolarizes the dynamic. It starts to destroy the attraction. Now, a one-time thing on a date, is that the end of the world? Is he going to be like, no, she set a boundary, I'm going to go find a more feminine woman? Almost certainly not. But if you're doing it here, guess what? You're going to be doing it as you get to know him better. You're going to do it when you're in a relationship with him. You're going to do it in marriage with him. And eventually, this is assuming that it works out with him, right? Eventually, it's going to destroy the polarity the more that you do it, because there's going to be so many things that come up where he's hopefully unintentionally violating a boundary of yours and causing discomfort or fear or anger or something inside of you. So the more that you do it, the more it causes this loss of polarity. And the less attraction there's going to be, the less desire he's going to feel to take care of you. In my marriage, by the way, my wife doesn't set boundaries with me. Now, trigger warning, what I'm going to say next, this is probably, for some of you, already really triggering, but let's even kick it up a notch. I don't let my wife set boundaries with me. I will not let her, because I have a boundary where I don't tolerate a woman, especially my wife, especially anyone who is under my care, to set boundaries with me. Now, before you freak out, that doesn't mean that I will violate my wife's boundaries. It doesn't mean that I will steamroll her. It doesn't mean that I don't care about how she feels or what she needs. This is all just about her communication. When I let my wife set boundaries with me, what I'm doing is I'm enabling her to continue disrespecting me, not intentionally. It's not like she'd be doing it intentionally, but it is a form of disrespect. And I'm enabling her to stay in a wounded pattern, because whenever a woman sets a boundary with a man, she's stuck in a wounded pattern. That comes with some caveats that I will probably discuss later in this video. So here's the alternative. The alternative is for you to just share vulnerably, without setting any kind of energetic wall, what is coming up for you. Right? So if the man is doing something like, for example, being too sexual, he's talking about things he wants to do or whatever, and you're feeling too much anxiety around that, it's way too soon, that trust and rapport hasn't been established, you can share, like, may I please have help with something? Like, I'm feeling some anxiety right now. And he's like, oh, why? And you're like, oh, because we're talking about this and I just don't know if I'm ready to be taking it to this level and talking about this, and I'm like scared that you're going to be leading towards sex too soon, something like that. And energetically, when she's sharing that, she's not setting any kind of boundary. She's not creating a wall. She's just expressing. She's just sharing. So that's an example, a very basic example of feminine communication. And now that man is in a situation, he's in a position to do one of two things. He could either disregard that and be like, oh, you know what, like, that's silly. It's totally fine to talk about this stuff. And if he does that, he's communicating that he's not very safe as a leader, because you just vulnerably shared your feelings. You just vulnerably shared your experience that you're not having a good time, and now he's trying to steamroll that and justify his behavior and say that your feelings they don't matter in some kind of way. You're going to feel that lack of safety in your body, and it is going to turn you off. And if you have feminine self-worth, that might be the time to flow away from that dynamic, or at least, not necessarily flow away. It depends on how much you like him in the first place, but at least try again with feminine communication. But you can't allow him to continue doing that, to continue communicating that way, because it's hurting you. So you have to continue using feminine communication. The other thing that the man could do, though, and this is what would typically happen when a woman is communicating this in a truly vulnerable, genuine, respectful way, is he'd be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize you experienced so much discomfort or felt that way. No problem, we won't talk about that anymore. So what has he done? Instead of you setting a wall, you setting the boundary, he's setting a boundary for his own behavior. You've inspired him into setting a boundary for his own behavior. He's like, yeah, we won't do that right now. And then he talks about something else. That's going to feel so much better for you as a woman. You're going to feel, this isn't a real feeling, but it's like you're going to feel this taken care of kind of feeling, right? This peace, this relaxation, this ease, maybe even some happy and enjoyment from that, because he cares about you enough. He values you enough to just hear your feelings without you trying to stop him from doing anything energetically. And then he shifts his behavior. It's like, what is that? You're being cherished in that moment. It's like a small example of being cherished. He's considering your feelings. He's considering your needs without you trying to get him to do anything. And this is all that happens in my marriage, right? So the triggering idea of, I don't let my wife set boundaries with me. No, I lead her to share my feelings, or her feelings vulnerably, right? And the problem that she's experiencing. I want to know what her experience is. I want to know especially her emotional experience that she is having with me because of my leadership. And if I realize from that, oh, I'm causing her some anxiety, or I'm creating this anger in her, or this neediness, or this shame, I don't want her to feel that way because of my behaviors, right? If I'm doing something undevotional, inconsiderate, not really thinking, incompetent, and I find out because I've led my wife into vulnerably sharing her feelings, now I'm going to want to adjust my behavior because I'm the leader. I'm in charge of keeping her heart safe. And this is what every man is in charge of, whether he realizes it or not. That's his job, is to keep the woman's heart, the woman that he's with, he needs to keep her heart safe. And he can only do that, or rather, he can only feel good about doing that when a woman is vulnerably sharing her heart without trying to control him in any way, so that it's fully energetically his choice. That's what feels so good for him, because then he gets that respect. He's seen kind of as the hero. He's getting that trust from her. That's his need, right? And then he gets to cherish you. He gets to protect you. He gets to adjust his behavior to make you feel better. And then you get cherished. That's polarity, right? You never have to set a boundary ever again with a man who actually cares about how you feel. That doesn't mean you won't have to set a boundary with men ever, right? Because some men are not devotional. There's psychopaths, there's sociopaths, there's narcissists, there's men who don't give a crap about your feelings. And you need to be able to distinguish between the two, because if you just share your feelings, even if you use feminine communication in the way that I teach perfectly, those men are not necessarily going to care or adjust their behavior. And then if you allow that, it's like you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position where you could get hurt. So there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of safety issues. So don't just go out and think, hey, if you master feminine communication, that's all you're ever going to have to do. No, you're going to have to know how to set boundaries with truly bad men, truly undevotional men. I don't want anyone taking this advice and then getting hurt because of it. So if this kind of dynamic appeals to you, it might trigger the crap out of you, especially if you have a history of past abuse from a father or a man or mother, or really anyone who is supposed to be taking care of you. that's okay that the trigger comes up, right? That's understandable, but sit with that trigger because there's something truly beautiful on the other side of it, right? There is that potential relationship, that potential dynamic where you're just being fully taken care of by a man, and you don't have to try to do anything. You don't have to energetically set any boundary, any wall, anything to protect yourself. You just get to be fully open and receive a man's care and know that you are safe if you just express exactly what you're experiencing. And it's as simple as that. This is what I teach women in my academy program, and we really practice this with you, show you the language, show you the dynamic. Like, we're actually in this dynamic with you, right? Where you're not setting boundaries with us as coaches, you're just sharing exactly what you're experiencing so that we can help you because we genuinely care, right? You don't need to set boundaries with us. And if you have trust issues with men especially, then working with us can really help repair those trust issues, because you start to learn, like, oh wow, I don't need to set boundaries. And you also don't need to hide, right? Because that's another really big pattern that we see in our clients, is that they hide. They don't share their feelings. They don't share anything. They just kind of push it away and hope that the man's behavior gets better. But in a truly devotional relationship, you're sharing everything. And it's the same thing in this coaching relationship. You share everything that you're experiencing so that we can take care of you in a non-romantic sense, right? And this is how you heal those trust issues, so that you learn the language and you move through the fear so that you can then do it with a man romantically, whether you're single right now or in a relationship. You learn how to do that, and you learn how to inspire that level of devotion from a man. You can do it, right? Any woman can do it. You just need to know how. You just need to have the support, the expertise, the practice, the correction, the information to actually make these shifts so that you can shift your control patterns, including boundaries, like setting boundaries, and learn how to inspire that devotion from a man. If that interests you, look below this video, go to the description, open that up. I have a whole bunch of links. One of the links is to my academy program, where you learn about what we do, and you can book a call with me if it feels like it's the right time to find out more about it and potentially work with us. That's thedreamrelationship.com. But we also have so many other links available, including several links for our free offers, like my free group and my free webinar, where you can learn more about this stuff and start making these shifts, no matter what your budget is, okay? We got my books, we got my women's dating course, we got our masterclass, and of course we got our academy. Just start with something and start making these shifts. You can have everything that you want as long as you take action. Go to the description, click one of the links, and start learning. It's all up to you.